No, we didn't hear about the boycotts. You just mentioned 100,000 people. That's a lot of people. You don't want to mess with that.
This contract was $30 billion. That was from workers standing together. It didn't have anything to do with government. Is that something you guys support?
Sure.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Absolutely. Well,
So if my coworkers wanted to make more, and since I want to make more, I'll probably organize something that could help make us more, like maybe a petition.
Yeah, right. Or union activity,
Yes.
a lot of that. Yeah. And would you be really excited by Trump coming out and supporting workers who are doing that?
Yes.
Seeing Trump on a picket line?
Yes.
Yeah. Hot button issues. You can't get away from them. You never hear about UPS.
not today. No, I honestly I didn't know that until you told me.
Why do you think that is?
So they just made a big move doing that too.
Because who's running the show? Listen, we lost our republic decades ago. We're living in an oligarchy. So they're the ones calling the shots because that's where the money's come from. The media, everybody.
You'll see things like the board or whatever they put on, the TV. You'll
Or
have
trying to divide people.
Yes.
A lot of the stories are trying to divide
exactly
people.
divide, keep them off the ball.
We're not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah, like we're
Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, TYT, Brian Tyler Cohen. Divide, divide, divide. Keeping your ball off the prize. These Trump supporters get it. Maybe. So key detail here is when you explain to these Trump supporters the power of unions, the power that was recently exhibited by unions in terms of UPS. They were like, wow, that's amazing, that's great. So some of them didn't even seem to be aware that this happened, and they were supportive of the idea. They're like, that's great. There's an example of positive change in things that I really care about, not woke, and books in schools, right? The real life issues they're concerned about is feeding their families and keeping a roof over their heads. That's what they're really concerned about. And here's something that, resulted in major change for the positive, for the good. They weren't even aware of it, but when hearing about it, they're like, this is great. But almost no one in independent or corporate, but especially independent media that they consume would have ever told them about that. Most likely the right-wing channels they listen to would not even cover the boycott or the strike, rather. And even if they did cover it, they would cover it from a perspective that would favor the elites and the 1%. Right? The elites and the 1% want you to think negatively about unions. Unions result in something scary, whatever, and too much power and it's mob mentality. That's what top greedy billionaires that don't care about regular people, that's what they would love you to think. They want unions demonized. And it's interesting that pretty much across the board you can expect right-wing independent media to demonize unions. Or don't be supportive of them. Don't inform their audiences like, hey, this is a way you can actually impact your life in a really significant way that really matters. Right? This woke stuff isn't going to put food on your table, isn't going to keep a roof over your head. Right? But you guys are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck. Here's a way that you can, move that in a positive direction. Increase your income so you can live more comfortably and be more free as a result. Why is it that right-wing independent media don't want that message to get to you? They want you to focus on woke, and M&Ms and candy and Aunt Jemima and ooh, look at the Barbie movie. Why is that? I have a lot of critiques of left-wing media, but in left-wing media, I do see them discussing these topics and covering these topics, right? They're weak, ineffective, certainly biased. But at least they will cover these things. Right-wing media, definitely, like if I were a billionaire, I were 1%, a greedy guy, I would love right-wing independent media and corporate, right? I would be a little bit with the left-wing and liberal media. Some days I'm like, okay, this is cool. Other days I'm like, I don't know, man, right? Stop promoting unions. I don't like unions, right? If I were a greedy, big tech, big pharma guy, I would love right-wing media. And yes, even with their anti-vax stances, right? Because even with all that mumbo-jumbo, the ultimate effect of their content is positive for me, right? I mean, some of the woke boycott stuff might make me feel a little uneasy, but that's trivial, right? If I'm a greedy corporation, right, I don't need to virtue signal to trans people, right? That's an opportunity for me to increase my revenue, but I don't need to. So I can choose to not pander to trans people and still make a lot of money. So what the right-wing media is talking about, I'm not really worried about. Left-wing now, that's another story, right? Left-wing media will talk about me compensating all of my employees adequately, all the way down to the janitor. That's something that, you know, you're talking about a fundamental structural change to how I make my profits. That's problematic. The right-wing stuff, oh, you don't like me doing trans stuff? Okay, I'll find some other way to increase my bottom line, right? Think about it.
Like it's weird that it's that.
They want. I
weird
feel like
that
this
we're
all for
talking-
distraction, to be honest.
Yeah,
They want us to argue.
It is. That's
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
They want us
It's
to
this
argue.
facade of
Yes.
or there's two sides when in reality there hasn't been two sides since the 1980s.
These are just the conversations that we had at one Trump rally, but you saw it. It did not take long to find people who agree that politicians should reject the money from billionaires, should break up massive corporate monopolies, end forever wars, and join workers on the picket line. And you would never know that if you just watched Fox or CNN. So let's try a thought experiment. What would it look like if
Or they're copycats in independent media. Tim Pool, Blaze TV. Interesting how independent media omits themselves from critique.
one presidential election, we had conversations like these that focused on the working class, what they demand, what they need, what they deserve? What would the debates be about? What would the candidates' platforms be like? Who would ultimately win, and how would they be forced to deliver?
The most important thing that he said, how would they be forced to deliver, which is a huge problem we have in this country. We vote without demands and without consequences, right? We vote for someone without demanding that they do certain things, right? We aspire to them doing certain things. We hope that they'll do certain things. There's no demand. There's no, you better do this or else, right? And if they don't deliver, it's just kind of like, well, you know, they tried better than the other guy. What will you do to ensure that the people you vote for deliver on their promises? If you have no answer to this question, then there's an answer to another question, which is why things keep the same and why it seems like no matter who you vote for, nothing really changes. I don't mean that literally, but we get some changes on the edges here and there, but fundamentally, we always seem on the same or very similar path. What is our part in the blame for why this happens?